Now I'm going to show you how to whip stitch your prepared shapes together for your English paper piecing. So I've already prepared the shapes with the tacking stitch, and there's a separate video for that shows you how that's all prepared. So what we're going to do is we're going to use, I like to use the Superior Threads bottom line thread, and that's what I've used all along for English paper piecing. It's a 60 weight polyester thread. And what's so great about a polyester thread is it's nice and strong, so that as you're scraping across the cardstock in your stitching, it doesn't wear out the thread. I personally don't think Aurifil is strong enough, even though I know some people use that. But you can obviously do what you want to do. More recently now, I've been exposed to Wonderfil's Deco Bob thread, and you can buy it in different ways. You can buy it in a spool, but they also have it available in this bobbinator, which is the bobbinator, and a number of bobbins, and that way you can carry it with you. It works really great, so that you always have colors that you want with you. You can buy a big pack of all their different shades of bobbins if you want to do that. You can get that, or you can also buy just one shade of bobbins. So you can do it however you want to do. But I found that I like it. It's a little bit finer than, it's an 80 weight thread. It's a little bit finer than the bottom line, and I just like how it handles. The downside is it's not quite as readily available. So either of those are really good options for you. When you're stitching with a really fine thread, you want to use a very, very fine needle. So I typically use a milliner's size 11, and that's a nice fine needle that accommodates that thread nicely. But for purpose of demonstration, I'm going to just use a dark thread, and I'm going to use a little bit bigger needle so that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to start by tying the quilter's knot, and I have a separate video for that. So I'm just going to tie it real quickly here, but you'll start with a knot. If you're using that bottom line thread, you're going to need to wrap it probably 10 to 12 times, or either of those two threads you're going to need to wrap it because it's so fine. So I usually lay out my pieces and figure out what I want to use, or the layout I want to use. I usually use a bobbin. I find that makes it a little bit, a thimble. That makes it a little bit easier on my fingers. And then I start by just laying my two shapes together, right sides together. And you can clip it if you want. You can use one of these Wonder clips and clip it down at the bottom, but I typically don't bother with that. I typically just hold it together. Then I'm going to come under the folds and come out the corners. So you're going under all that fabric and just coming out the corner, and you'll just pull your thread out. And then what you're going to do is you're going to stitch through both sides. Bring your needle through both sides. And then to create, what we want to do first is create the knicker knot. So we're going to start with the tail that's coming out of the fabric and wrap it around one direction. And then take the tail, the other two threads coming out of the needle, and wrap it the opposite direction. And then what happens is as you pull it, it creates this nice little figure 8 knot, and that's called the knicker knot, and that's made famous by Sue Daly. All right, so then what we're going to do is do the whip stitch. And again, I'm stitching with a darker thread so you can see it. But what you're going to do is you're going to just continue making these stitches. You'll go straight across. You're catching both shapes, sides of the shape, and pull it through. You don't want to stitch at an angle. You want to stitch straight across, and that way you'll see the least amount of thread as you're stitching. And you just keep stitching across. I do these fairly close together, but you can do them whatever feels comfortable with, but you can see. So this is what it looks like on this side, but when you open it up then, you don't see very many, you really can hardly see the stitches. And if you're using a fine thread and something neutral, it's really not going to show much at all. So you just keep working your way across, keep stitching straight across, and you'll work your way till you get to the end of your shape. And then I usually do a couple stitches there. Then what I'll do is I'll open it up, and then I'll go to the next shape and lay it in place and fold it and stitch across and work my way around. Okay, hope that makes sense. Enjoy your English paper piecing.